Close your eyes. Imagine drifting beyond the reach of every city light, beyond the silver trails of satellites, until even the sun becomes a distant ember. Out there, silence reigns vast, eternal and soft as sleep. Somewhere in that deep blue distance turns a world we barely know, wrapped in clouds that shimmer like frozen dreams. This is Neptune, the planet of whispers, storms, and infinite stillness. Tonight let us travel there together, not as astronauts but as dreamers, floating quietly through the final frontier of light. It begins with silence, the kind that only exists when the world has forgotten to breathe. Above us stretches an ocean of stars, each one trembling faintly in the chill of the void. Somewhere between them lies a question older than words. How far does light go before it fades? On a clear night, you can stand on Earth and see Venus blazing in the west, Jupiter rising like a golden lantern, even Saturn with its faint, steady glow. But there is one world your eyes will never find, no matter how long you search. It is too far, too dim, too patient for ordinary sight. And yet, it is there, circling the sun, at the outermost edge, waiting in quiet dignity. Neptune. Its existence is a whisper in the grand symphony of the cosmos. While Mercury burns close to the sun, and Jupiter reigns as the giant of storms, Neptune drifts like a forgotten melody. It is the smallest of the ice giants, a pale sapphire adrift in eternal twilight. It is so distant that sunlight there is only a memory, a faint glimmer, 1,000 times weaker than on Earth. Imagine the warmth of our sun reduced to a cold silver coin shining faintly on frozen winds. If you stood upon its invisible horizon, you would see a sky of blue darker than ink, and somewhere within that darkness the faint halo of icy rings encircling the planet like a veil. Those rings do not blaze like Saturn's. They whisper. They shimmer faintly like frost, caught in the breath of a dream. Neptune does not boast its beauty, it conceals it, offering it only to those who are patient enough to imagine. No human eye has ever truly looked upon Neptune unaided. It cannot be seen from any backyard telescope, nor by sailors who once guided their journeys by stars. And yet long before anyone saw it, it was found not by sight, but by thought. The story of Neptune is the story of imagination itself, of minds that reached where eyes could not. But that is for another night. For now, we are simply learning to listen. Listen to the stillness of distance, to the hum of 1,000,000,000 miles, to the slow heartbeat of a planet that orbits once every 165 years. A year there lasts longer than any human lifetime. Imagine the same dawn stretching for decades, the same sunset glowing through generations. On Neptune, time is not measured in moments but in music, long soft notes that fade into infinity. And yet despite its remoteness, there is something comforting about it. The way it keeps turning, faithfully unseen but constant, like a lighthouse no sailor will ever reach. There is a serenity in its distance, a kind of cosmic patience. It reminds us that beauty does not need an audience. It simply is. The ancient poets spoke of Neptune as the god of the sea, ruler of depths and silence. How fitting that the planet bearing his name should be an ocean itself, not of water, but of wind and frozen light. Beneath its clouds, storms rise and fall, unseen and unrecorded, shaping landscapes no eye has beheld. Yet somehow, even in that alien loneliness, there is harmony. If you could float above it, your ship surrounded by the midnight blue of its atmosphere, you might feel a strange peace. You would see no continents, no oceans, only endless curves of cloud curling like smoke across a sleeping face. The sunlight would touch you softly, a faint glimmer brushing the edges of your window, and you would feel perhaps for the first time that the universe breathes slowly, gently, and without hurry. In that breath lies the promise of the journey to come through discovery and silence, through mathematics and dreams, from the glow of human curiosity to the outermost shadows of space. Tonight, as you lie beneath your own sky, let the thought of Neptune carry you away from noise and motion. Let it rock you in its vast orbit, steady and unbroken, as if the entire universe were cradling you in blue. For now, sleep is your spaceship, and imagination your engine. The stars outside your window may be only the soft lights of the city, but beyond them, this quiet giant turns slow, ancient, waiting. And when the night is deep enough, perhaps you will hear it whisper, "Come find me." If you close your eyes, you might almost see it. A pale, distant world gliding through the dark, where sunlight becomes memory, and silence becomes song. And if this gentle journey has begun to stir your curiosity, to calm your thoughts like waves settling under moonlight, stay with us. Subscribe to Gentle Sleep Stories, where each night the universe opens a new door, and the stars themselves tell you their secrets. And so, as the last image of that deep blue world fades into the horizon of your imagination, the quiet rhythm of the universe continues. The whisper of Neptune's distant winds becomes the echo of another sound, the scratching of a quill upon paper, the heartbeat of a man chasing a planet he could not see. The journey now drifts from the cold edge of space back to Earth, to a time when discovery began not with rockets or cameras, but with thought itself. In the middle of the 19th century, the world was smaller, or so it seemed. The great observatories of Europe pointed their telescopes toward the heavens, charting the known planets like travelers mapping the seas. Uranus, discovered only a few decades before, had already expanded humanity's cosmic borders. But something about its path across the sky refused to behave. It drifted slightly, hesitated faintly, as though pulled by an unseen hand. That unseen hand belonged to something yet undiscovered. And so began one of the quietest, most elegant adventures in all of human history. The discovery of Neptune, a world found not by sight, but by mathematics. Imagine a scholar's study in Paris. The faint smell of ink papers scattered like fallen leaves, a globe turning slowly under candlelight. At a desk sits Urbain Le Verrier, a man of patience and precision. His hair is powdered with chalk dust, his mind sharp as the compass in his hand. While others searched the heavens through glass, he searched them through numbers. Each equation was a star, each calculation a whisper from the cosmos. He noticed that Uranus did not follow Newton's perfect rules. Its orbit trembled, as if the fabric of gravity itself were breathing. Most would have blamed faulty data or imperfect instruments, but Le Verrier believed in order in a universe that spoke through logic. Somewhere beyond Uranus, he reasoned, another planet must exist, tugging invisibly at its path. He could not see it, but he could feel its pull in the language of numbers. For months, he worked alone, calculating the impossible. The figures grew into constellations on his page. Each result brought him closer to a destination he could not touch. He was in a sense the first traveler to Neptune, his ship built not of steel, but of reason and faith. Then one autumn evening in 1846, his equations led to a set of coordinates. A point in the sky, quiet and unremarkable. He wrote a letter to Johann Gottfried Galle, an astronomer in Berlin, asking him to look there at that precise place. The message crossed Europe in the hands of couriers and the breath of trains. And on September 23rd, under the cool gaze of a German night gull, raised his telescope toward the heavens. He saw it a faint blue dot shimmering where Leverrier had said it would be. In that moment, a world was born from thought. Neptune had been found through pure mathematics, through the whisper of logic carried across light years. It was as if the universe had winked in response, acknowledging that imagination, when disciplined by reason, can reach farther than eyes. The discovery was not loud. There were no fireworks, no drums, only a murmur of awe that rippled through the scientific world. A planet that no one had seen, no one had dreamed of, had revealed itself to a mind that dared to listen. And just a few days later, another light appeared near it, Triton. Neptune's largest moon circling its parent like a loyal ghost. The discovery came so swiftly that it felt as though Neptune had been waiting ready to be found. Think of it, a world 4.5 billion kilometers away, unseen by all of human history, suddenly known because one man trusted the quiet voice of the universe speaking through numbers. It reminds us that discovery is not always about distance. Sometimes it is about patience. Leverrier's discovery changed more than astronomy. It changed the way we understand truth. He showed that belief in the unseen, when rooted in reason, can lead us to beauty beyond imagination. Long before the first photograph of Neptune was ever taken, humanity had already painted it with the brush of intellect. And so, in the quiet observatories of Europe, astronomers began to whisper the name Neptune with reverence. To them, it was more than a planet. It was proof that the cosmos was not chaos, but music. Every orbit, every deviation, a note in a vast and perfect harmony. Yet there was something poetic in its distance. Neptune became the symbol of everything just beyond reach, everything that demands faith before evidence. For centuries it would remain a blue mystery shimmering faintly at the edge of our understanding. No spacecraft, no human eye would approach it for more than 100 years. It was a discovery made of thought, destined to sleep in silence until our machines could follow where our minds had already gone. Even now, when we look at Neptune through the glass eyes of telescopes, we are looking not only at a planet, but at a triumph of imagination. Each glimmer of blue light that reaches us tonight began its journey long before our grandparents were born. It carries with it the echo of Leverrier's heartbeat, the scratch of his pen, the sigh of the candle burning low. Perhaps that is the truest lesson Neptune gives us, that wonder is not loud. It is patient, like the turning of the planets. It waits for those who are quiet enough to hear it. So when you look up at the night sky, remember that there is more to it than what you see. Somewhere beyond the faintest star, beyond the last whisper of light, there drifts a blue world discovered by thought alone. A reminder that faith and intellect, dream and discipline are not opposites, but companions, two travelers sharing the same endless sea. And as your thoughts begin to drift tonight, let them follow that blue light through the quiet corridors of space. For the story of Neptune is not just about what was found, but how it was found through curiosity, through patience, through the delicate art of believing in the invisible. And if this story has carried you gently beyond the noise of your day, stay with us. Subscribe to Gentle Sleep Stories, and together we'll keep wandering past the stars, through the silence to the edges of imagination itself. The quill has been set down, the ink has dried, and the candlelight of 1846 has faded into history. Yet the world Urbain Le Verrier dreamed into existence still waits beyond reach, turning silently, slowly in the dark. For decades, humanity could only imagine its face, a pale dot in the mathematics of the heavens. But imagination, once awakened, never sleeps. And so, as the years rolled on, telescopes searched the skies for the world of blue. Let us return there now, not to the man who found it, but to the planet itself, resting at the edge of the sun's faintest breath. Far beyond the golden glow of Jupiter and the dusty light of Saturn lies a place where sunlight becomes a whisper. Neptune drifts there at the border between brightness and shadow, where day and night lose their meaning. To reach it, a beam of light from the sun must travel 4.5 billion kilometers, 13 long years for a human-made probe, or 4 hours even for light itself. Imagine that a sunrise that takes half a morning to arrive. From this distance, the sun is no larger than a silver coin. Its warmth cannot melt ice or stir wind the way it does on Earth. Yet Neptune remains alive, wrapped in winds that scream faster than sound, and storms that rise and fall like the slow breath of a sleeping giant. You could almost call it an ocean, an endless sea of hydrogen and methane, its waves made of clouds, its tides drawn not by the moon, but by invisible gravity. When seen through the eyes of our telescopes, Neptune shimmers with a calm sapphire light. It is smaller than Uranus, yet somehow more vivid, as if the universe dipped a brush into the deepest blue it could find and painted this world at the edge of creation. Around it swirl faint halos of dust and ice rings so delicate they vanish when sunlight shifts. They do not blaze like Saturn's. They whisper their existence only to those who look carefully. These rings are ancient scars, the remains of moons torn apart long ago. Each grain of ice within them catches a fragment of light and sends it wandering through the dark. Together, they form thin, uneven bands, like the faint pulse of memory, circling a planet that has seen too much silence. They bear the names of the men who first dreamed of Neptune: Gale Le Verrier, Lassell, Arago, and Adams. 5 rings for 5 visionaries, each frozen in the planet's eternal dusk. If you could drift above those rings, you would see them not as circles, but as arcs, broken lines that appear, then vanish like unfinished thoughts. Astronomers once puzzled over why they do not spread evenly, why the dust seems to gather in clusters rather than forming a perfect ring. Perhaps they are shepherded by tiny moons, guardians of invisible order. Or perhaps Neptune simply prefers imperfection, a quiet reminder that beauty often lives in what cannot be explained. The planet's vast atmosphere rolls beneath those rings, layer upon layer of blue mist. Its outer shell is made mostly of hydrogen, the lightest of elements, yet its heart hides something far heavier. Deep below, pressure builds, until gases become liquid, until methane breaks apart, and carbon rains downward as diamonds. Picture it, a storm of gems falling through oceans of carbon, shining briefly before sinking into darkness. A place where every drop of rain is a jewel, and yet no one is there to see it. But Neptune's beauty is not just in its mysteries. It lies in its patience. While Earth spins through its seasons in a single year, Neptune's orbit around the Sun takes 165. A lifetime for every spring, a lifetime for every winter. 4 seasons stretching across 4 human generations, each lasting 40 Earth years. In its current age, Neptune's southern hemisphere basks in a long-distant spring, a soft brightness that warms its clouds by just 10 degrees, enough to turn frozen methane into vapor and make the planet shimmer a little brighter in our telescopes. Imagine that light traveling across billions of kilometers, taking years to reach our eyes. It tells us that even here, where the sun is a pale ghost, warmth still finds a way. The message is simple, but profound: distance does not erase connection. Even the farthest worlds feel the touch of the same star that warms your face on a morning walk. If you stood there, impossible though it may be, you would see no horizon, only an endless curtain of clouds. The wind would rush past you at 2,000 kilometers an hour, yet you would hear nothing. The air would be too thin for sound, too empty for echo. It would be as if the planet were breathing around you, silent and steady. You might feel small, but not afraid, more like a guest in a cathedral built of light and frost. Neptune's serenity hides a restless soul. Beneath its calm exterior, energy moves upward from its core, feeding storms that bloom and vanish without warning. The Great Dark Spot. A vast cyclone the size of Earth once swirled there like an open eye. When the Voyager 2 spacecraft finally arrived in 1989, it captured the image of that storm before it disappeared forever. It was as though Neptune had revealed its face for a single moment, then turned away again, choosing once more the comfort of mystery. And perhaps that is what Neptune teaches us most: that stillness is not emptiness. It is depth. The planet is not cold because it lacks warmth. It is quiet because it holds its fire within. Beneath its tranquil blue lies motion, creation, and the slow, secret burning of its heart. The more we learn, the more we understand that this distant world mirrors something inside us. Like Neptune, we often carry our storms beneath calm surfaces. We orbit the warmth of others, shining faintly, sometimes unnoticed, yet still part of the same cosmic song. As night deepens and your thoughts drift outward, imagine those delicate rings gliding through the dark. Picture their ice dust, reflecting the light of a faraway sun, each particle spinning in silence, keeping rhythm with the heartbeat of the universe. There, on the farthest edge of the solar system, Neptune turns slowly, patiently, forever. And somewhere in that rhythm, perhaps you'll find your own steady, peaceful, unhurried. The same light that brushes its clouds tonight will touch your world tomorrow. You are not as far from Neptune as you think. Now, as the last glimmer of blue fades from your mind, the story of the sky continues to unfold. For where rings circle softly, storms soon awaken. The next chapter of our journey drifts closer toward the travelers who dared to meet this silent giant face to face. The faint light from Neptune's icy rings still lingers in the imagination like dust floating in a beam of sunlight. We have drifted above its calm blue clouds, listening to the silence that speaks louder than any storm. But silence, as it turns out, is never the end of a story. Somewhere across the gulf of time and space, a messenger was already on its way. A small silver traveler leaving Earth behind to meet the lonely giant face to face. The age of mathematics had given us Neptune's name. Now the age of machines would let us see its soul. In the long winter of space, where sunlight grows thin and time itself slows to a gentle crawl, a lone spacecraft sailed through the dark. It was not large, not loud, not heroic in the way we imagine starships to be. It was small, no bigger than a car yet. Inside it carried humanity's oldest dream, to know what lies beyond. Its name was Voyager 2, and for more than a decade it had wandered the outer seas of the solar system like a message in a bottle tossed into the cosmic tide. By the time it left Uranus behind in 1986, it had already traveled billions of miles. Its instruments were aging, its memory banks filled with the whispers of Jupiter's storms and Saturn's rings. Still, it pressed onward, guided by a rare alignment of planets that happens only once every 175 years, a cosmic doorway through which a single traveler could pass. Ahead of it waited Neptune, the final planet of its grand tour, the last frontier before the endless dark. For 3 long years it journeyed toward that distant blue dot, crossing a space so empty that even sunlight seemed hesitant to follow. The signals from Earth took 4 hours to reach it, and 4 hours more to return. Each message was a conversation across time, patient, fragile, hopeful. On board the Voyager's cameras stared into blackness, waiting for the first glimmer of something new. And then one day it appeared. At first it was only a faint smudge of light, then a sphere of glowing azure rising against the void. Neptune, the unseen world, the one born from equations and dreams, finally had a face. The images arrived slowly, pixel by pixel, painting a portrait of a planet more vivid and alive than anyone had imagined. From 5,000 kilometers above its north pole, Voyager 2 watched Neptune spin beneath it, like a marble of glass and shadow. The planet's color was mesmerizing, not the pale blue of the sky, but the deep, haunting blue of the sea at twilight. Across that surface, clouds of methane ice swept in long ribbons, curling and twisting like brushstrokes on a cosmic canvas. And there, a dark oval, the size of Earth itself, the great dark spot. A storm, fierce and ancient, swirling through Neptune's atmosphere, with winds that roared at 400 kilometers per hour, faster than sound. Voyager captured it in silence, its instruments trembling as they recorded the strongest gales in the solar system. For centuries, Neptune had hidden its voice behind distance and cold, but now it spoke in motion. The scientists back on Earth watched in awe as each image came through. They saw a world that was not dead, not frozen in stillness, but alive with energy. Beneath the icy calm of its rings, Neptune was a place of fire and wind, a paradox of beauty and violence. It was as if the planet had been waiting for someone to notice, to tell its story. And when the Voyager arrived, it opened its heart. As the spacecraft drifted closer, new secrets revealed themselves. Faint arcs of light formed rings that shimmered like threads of smoke. Tiny moons appeared, fragile companions, dancing through Neptune's gravity. One of them, Triton, gleamed like a cold pearl, reflecting the pale light of its parent planet. Voyager would turn its gaze to Triton later, capturing images that showed geysers of ice erupting from its surface, proof that even in the frozen corners of space, the breath of life and motion persisted. But for now, the focus remained on Neptune itself. The planet's deep winds spun backward, flowing opposite to its rotation, a strange defiance of physics that puzzled the scientists and enchanted the dreamers. What engine could drive such power so far from the warmth of the sun? They realized that Neptune must carry a hidden fire within a core, still warm from the birth of the solar system, radiating energy out into the cold. As Voyager 2 passed behind the planet, it sent one last picture, Neptune's crescent, against the black sunlight, tracing a delicate rim of ice-blue light along its edge. It looked like a drop of water hanging in space, fragile yet eternal. Then, as its cameras powered down, and its course bent toward the stars, the Voyager became what it was always meant to be. A traveler, moving beyond sight, carrying humanity's curiosity into the silence between worlds. Back on Earth, the people who had sent it watched the final transmissions fade. They knew they would never see Neptune again in their lifetimes. Yet in that farewell, there was no sadness, only wonder. A planet once known only by numbers had become a face, a voice, a presence. It had shared with us its storms and its serenity, and then returned to its quiet watch at the edge of the sun's light. Voyager 2 would continue its voyage out past Pluto, beyond the last dust of our solar system, into the deep galactic dark. Somewhere even now, its signal still drifts through space, a heartbeat from our world echoing across eternity. And perhaps if Neptune could feel, it would smile faintly, knowing that for one brief moment in the history of the cosmos, it was seen, known, and loved. As you listen to the hum of the night around you, the low rhythm of your own breath, the hush of the world falling asleep, think of that little spacecraft still sailing through the void. It carries with it the memory of our curiosity. The same curiosity that discovered Neptune with a pencil and paper, then reached it with a machine of metal and hope. And as the stars blink softly outside your window, remember that somewhere out there in the darkness beyond darkness, Voyager is still moving, a whisper of humanity, passing through the silence of forever. And so our journey continues deeper into Neptune's mysteries. The winds that Voyager once captured are still turning, reshaping the planet's sky. In our next chapter, we will descend into that endless storm to listen to the voice of the wind itself and to understand how chaos can become beauty. The memory of Voyager 2 drifts behind us now, like a lantern fading in the distance. Its silver body still sails through the deep dark, carrying whispers of Neptune's winds across the void. What it left behind, however, was not silence, it was wonder. For even as the spacecraft vanished into eternity, the storms it revealed continued to rage. They spun, they shifted, they vanished, and returned again, painting the great blue planet with tempests, as beautiful as they were fierce. Now let us follow those winds to where Neptune's heart beats beneath clouds of ice and shadow. Imagine standing above an endless sea made of sky. No land, no horizon, only the slow swirl of blue upon blue. Below you the clouds churn and rise like tides. Their shapes stretch across thousands of miles, yet they move with the grace of breath, folding and fading as though the planet itself were dreaming. This is Neptune's face, a portrait painted in motion, ever changing, ever serene, even in its violence. When Voyager 2's cameras captured the Great Dark Spot in 1989, humanity witnessed a storm unlike any other. It was a shadow the size of Earth itself rotating in the southern hemisphere with silent fury. Around its edges, white clouds of methane ice streaked like cirrus over an alien ocean. The winds that drove it reached more than 400 kilometers per hour, the fastest ever recorded in our solar system. And yet within that unimaginable speed, there was quietness. The storm turned unheeding in a place where sound could not travel. Scientists expected such a tempest to last for centuries, like Jupiter's great red spot. But when telescopes looked again years later, the storm was gone, not slowly faded, vanished. In its place, Neptune's clouds glowed smooth and bright, as though the planet had exhaled, erasing its own scars. But then new spots appeared in other places, rising like memories from the deep. Neptune's storms, it seemed, were not scars at all. They were breaths, the planet inhaling and exhaling through the centuries. The winds on Neptune move backward, flowing against the planet's rotation. They do not obey the patterns of Earth or Jupiter. Instead, they create their own rhythm, weaving invisible ribbons across the atmosphere. These winds roar and twist, but never collide. They dance. To look at them is to watch a ballet of chaos made graceful by distance. What drives such power in a world so far from the sun? The answer hides within Neptune's mysterious heart. Unlike Uranus, its silent twin, Neptune burns with energy from within. Deep below the clouds, heat seeps upward from a molten core, the lingering warmth of creation. It fuels the storms, gives them life, and keeps the planet restless, even at the edge of the sun's light. From Earth, these storms appear as faint shifts in color. Through the eyes of telescopes like Hubble, they come and go, forming dark ovals that drift for a few years before dissolving into mist. Astronomers have learned to look for them not as fixed landmarks but as travelers, temporary visitors to the planet's upper sky. The latest of these storms appeared in 2015, a dark patch that wandered across Neptune's mid-latitudes, shrinking and fading before slipping quietly out of sight. It's strange to think that something so vast, a storm larger than our entire world, can vanish without a sound. But perhaps that is Neptune's way of teaching humility. On Earth, storms crash and howl. They announce themselves. On Neptune, they rise and fall in silence, powerful yet calm, fierce yet dignified. Even in rage, Neptune whispers. There's poetry in that, a reminder that strength need not shout. The planet's tempests, though immense, belong to a world where noise cannot exist. In that eternal hush, movement itself becomes music. The rippling of methane clouds, the shimmer of sunlight refracted through icy haze. These are the hymns of Neptune, sung in wavelengths we cannot hear, but can somehow feel. As Voyager 2 passed close to the planet's daylit face, it watched clouds cast long shadows over the deeper layers below. Some clouds rose higher than Mount Everest. Others stretched thin, delicate as spider silk. Together, they formed patterns so intricate that even computers struggle to predict their dance. Every swirl, every twist, every fleeting streak of brightness was a note in Neptune's quiet symphony. It may seem strange to speak of beauty in such a cold and distant place. Yet when we look at those photographs, something ancient stirs inside us. Perhaps it's because Neptune's storms mirror the storms within our own hearts. Unpredictable, powerful, and yet capable of sudden peace. We too carry tempests that rise and fade. We too have moments of stillness after the storm has passed, when the air feels new again. Think of Neptune as a mirror turned toward the cosmos. Through it we see that chaos and calm are not opposites, but companions. Its storms are born from imbalance, yet they shape a planet that moves with grace. Its winds howl in silence, yet they remind us of the serenity that can follow even the fiercest of winds. Neptune does not fear its storms. It embraces them, and in doing so becomes something timeless. When Hubble watched the great dark spot disappear, scientists were puzzled. How could such power simply end? Perhaps the storm sank into lower layers, hidden beneath the methane haze. Or perhaps Neptune's energy shifted elsewhere, forming new tempests unseen by our eyes. Whatever the reason, it left behind a lesson written in clouds that nothing lasts forever, and that transience too is beautiful. So tonight, as you listen to the quiet hum around you, imagine those distant winds. They race endlessly through the planet's pale blue depths, carving unseen paths through vapor and time. No one will ever stand beneath them. No ear will ever hear their roar. Yet they exist vast, unstoppable, and strangely gentle. Neptune sleeps in motion. Even as it turns, its storms breathe in rhythm with the cosmos. Somewhere in that rhythm is a heartbeat, faint but steady, echoing across billions of miles. The same pulse that stirs the clouds of Neptune moves through you now, slow and calm, reminding you that every storm, no matter how fierce, must someday give way to peace. And as Neptune spins on painting and erasing its tempests across eternity, our journey turns toward another mystery, the rhythm of its seasons. For though the sun is dim and distant, its light still changes the face of this faraway world. And with that faint warmth begins the next part of our story. 40-year springs, glacial summers, and the slow dance of time at the edge of the solar system. The storms of Neptune drift away now, leaving behind a tranquil sea of blue that stretches endlessly into the dark. The great dark spot fades like a dream dissolving at dawn, and the mighty winds soften into silence. Yet even in calm, Neptune is never still. The planet turns slowly beneath the faraway sun, and though that light is faint, no brighter than moonlight on Earth, it still changes everything. Seasons come and go there too, though they move in rhythms almost beyond our imagination. To understand Neptune's life is to learn what time means when eternity is the clock. On Earth we measure our lives by seasons. The rush of spring, the heat of summer, the slow cooling of fall, and the quiet sleep of winter. But on Neptune, a single year lasts longer than any human lifetime. It takes 165 of our years to complete one orbit around the Sun. By the time Neptune finishes one revolution, everything we know and love will have changed. Empires will have risen and fallen. The children of our children's children will have grown old. And yet Neptune will have seen only one circle of light. Because of this immense journey, its seasons are not measured in months but in decades. Each one lasts 40 years, as though the planet has stretched time into a gentle melody. Right now, as we speak, Neptune's southern hemisphere is in the middle of its long, distant spring. Imagine a world where the dawn of a new season takes the span of a human life to arrive, where sunlight creeps across the horizon not in minutes, but in generations. The sun from Neptune's sky is only a pale dot 1/30th the size it appears to us. Its rays are so weak that a human hand would never feel their warmth. And yet that faint light makes a difference. It falls on the clouds with patience, warming them just enough 10 degrees warmer than the rest of the planet. The change is small, almost invisible, but even a whisper of sunlight can alter the mood of a world. As this delicate warmth touches Neptune's southern clouds, frozen methane begins to lift and rise. It escapes the ice, turning into vapor that brightens the air. When scientists on Earth observe the planet through their telescopes, they see that hemisphere glowing faintly brighter, like a candle seen through fog. It is Neptune's spring awakening, a soft, quiet renewal that no eye will ever see up close, yet whose rhythm continues faithfully, century after century. Spring on Neptune is not a sudden rebirth, but a slow unfolding. There are no flowers, no rains, no birds to sing. Instead, there is movement in the sky, the clouds shifting, the winds changing their paths. Even in the thin, frigid atmosphere, something stirs, a slow sigh of motion that reminds the universe that time, though distant, still flows. The seasons there are shaped not only by sunlight, but by the tilt of Neptune's axis. At 28 degrees, it leans in a way not so different from our own world's 23. That tilt allows its poles to take turns greeting the sun, though the greeting is long delayed. 40 years of light followed by 40 years of twilight. It's easy to imagine that the planet itself must have learned patience, for its days are fleeting, but its seasons, its heartbeats, are long. If you were to stand on Neptune, though no ground exists, only clouds, you would see a sky tinted with shades of cobalt and indigo. Above you, the sun would hang low, its light scattered into a pale silver haze. The horizon would stretch into forever, and time would lose all meaning. Perhaps you would forget the ticking of hours, the turning of calendars. You might begin to understand eternity the way Neptune does not. As something distant, but as something slow and kind. There is peace in such slowness. On Earth we hurry through the year, counting the days until things bloom or fade. Neptune does not hurry. It waits. Its storms rise and vanish, its clouds drift and dissolve, yet the planet itself endures in stillness. It accepts that change comes gently in whispers, not in waves. Sometimes I wonder if that is why Neptune feels so calming to imagine, because it teaches us that beauty can live in patience. Its spring is a promise kept slowly. The sunlight that left the sun 4 hours ago now touches its upper clouds, warming them like a hand resting on cold glass. The change is invisible to us, yet the planet responds. Even here on the frontier of darkness, light still matters. Astronomers have watched this subtle transformation for decades. They've seen the southern hemisphere grow brighter, and they've wondered how such dim light can spark such vivid response. But perhaps the answer is simple. Even the faintest light, when given time, can work miracles. It is not the strength of the warmth that matters, it is the constancy. The sun has not abandoned Neptune, it has simply learned to love it from afar. And so the planet glows softly, holding its own private spring. While Earth races through its years, Neptune drifts with dignity, its orbit a slow waltz around the sun. There is no rush there, no sense of loss. The planet does not mourn the passing of winter, for winter never truly ends. It only transforms into something gentler. Perhaps we can learn from that. In our lives, seasons change quickly, sometimes too quickly. We blink and spring becomes summer, childhood becomes memory. But Neptune reminds us that not everything beautiful must happen fast. Sometimes grace lives in the waiting, in the long breath before dawn, in the quiet promise of light that will come in its own time. As you drift now into rest, think of Neptune's slow seasons. Picture that faint sun hovering far away, spilling silver across the planet's blue curve. Feel how even in the coldest reaches of existence, the rhythm of life persists. It may take 40 years for Neptune's spring to bloom, but it will bloom all the same. And somewhere high above those clouds, the soft winds still move, carrying whispers of change, of time, of peace. Each gust, each shimmering cloud reminds us that even at the edge of the solar system, renewal is possible. As Neptune turns gently beneath the distant sun, our journey moves onward. Beyond the quiet patience of its seasons lies a world of hidden light, a place where storms meet diamonds, where the impossible becomes real. The next step of our voyage will lead us beneath those clouds, deep into the heart of Neptune itself, where rain does not fall as water, but as jewels. Neptune's 40-year spring fades slowly into silence, like a melody lingering in the air after the final note. The faint sunlight still glimmers upon its blue clouds, warming them by mere degrees, and yet the planet seems to awaken quietly, reverently. But beneath that serene surface, hidden far below the clouds, lies another kind of world. It is not made of wind or color or season, but of pressure and fire. There, in the unseen depths of Neptune's heart, something extraordinary happens. Something that sounds like myth, yet belongs to truth. The deeper you descend into Neptune, the more the blue begins to darken. The clouds that seemed so gentle from afar now fold upon one another, dense and heavy. The winds that once whispered in the upper atmosphere grow sluggish under the weight of the planet's gravity. Light begins to die here, swallowed by mist and shadow. And then somewhere in that eternal twilight, you reach the hidden ocean, a realm of water, ammonia and methane, crushed together into strange liquid forms unknown on Earth. At this depth, pressure is a god. Every molecule, every particle is squeezed by forces beyond imagination. It is here, under 7 million bars of pressure, 7 million times the weight of our own atmosphere, that the impossible begins to happen. Methane, simple and silent, begins to change. The carbon within it is forced apart, each atom torn from its bonds. And as they fall, they bind again, not as gas, not as soot, but as diamonds. Imagine it rain made not of water, but of shimmering gemstones. Each drop heavier than steel, each one flashing in the dim light of Neptune's hidden core. They fall endlessly, sinking through the mantle of liquid carbon, forming vast storms of diamonds that drift like snow in a dream. Some melt into rivers of liquid carbon, Others remain solid, tumbling toward the unseen core, where they may rest for eternity, fountains of diamond glimmering in the dark. It sounds like fantasy, something out of poetry, and yet it is science. Here at the farthest edge of the sun's reach, nature has sculpted beauty out of pressure. Where on Earth diamonds are rare, born in volcanic fire, and brought up from the deep on Neptune, they are common as rain. The entire planet may be veiled in them, each glint a reflection of the energy locked within. Astronomers call Neptune an ice giant, but that term feels too small. It is not merely ice, not merely gas, but a symphony of transformations. Layers upon layers of strange seas where water acts like stone and methane burns without flame. The deeper you go, the more alien it becomes. Yet somehow, even in such strangeness, there is order, a quiet rhythm that mirrors the heartbeats of stars. What drives this hidden fire within a planet so far from the sun? It may be that Neptune, unlike its sister Uranus, still holds the warmth of its birth. Billions of years ago, when the solar system was new, matter collided and fused, releasing energy that Neptune has never quite let go of. It glows faintly from within, radiating more heat than it receives from the sun. This inner warmth may stir the planet's wild weather, feed its winds, and drive its diamond rain. Neptune is not merely frozen, it is alive with energy, breathing quietly in the cold. Picture those diamonds now falling endlessly in silence. They have no audience, no light to catch their shine, yet they continue beautiful because they exist. There's something deeply human in that thought, that even when unseen beauty endures. Neptune reminds us that grandeur does not need witnesses. The universe creates wonders for its own joy. Some scientists believe that deep beneath the diamond rain lies an ocean made not of water, but of liquid carbon so thick and dark, it behaves like tar. Within it, the diamonds drift and float like icebergs, glowing faintly under the immense heat. Entire diamond bergs may form there, sailing slowly across that unseen sea, rising and sinking in a rhythm as old as time. If you could listen closely enough, perhaps, you would hear the soft chiming of jewels, colliding, echoing through the mantle, like a lullaby made of stone. There is another theory, one that speaks not of peace, but of motion. The diamonds may not rest at all. Instead, they could sink steadily toward the core, where heat and pressure grow beyond comprehension. As they fall, they might melt again into carbon oceans, only to crystallize anew, rising and falling in an endless cycle. A storm without end, a glittering heartbeat deep within the planet's soul. This secret interior, this ocean of lightless jewels, is what makes Neptune so extraordinary. It transforms what seems impossible into reality, and it does so without noise or spectacle. The surface above may be calm, the winds slow, but beneath lies constant creation, a reminder that stillness does not mean emptiness. Beneath even the quietest face can dwell the most wondrous depths. If you were to journey down into Neptune's core, past the clouds and the storms, through the oceans of methane and ammonia, you would eventually find yourself surrounded by brilliance. No light would reach you from above, yet around you, everything would gleam. You would see the shimmer of crystal flakes drifting in dark water, glowing faintly in the planet's own warmth. You might feel for the first time what it means to stand inside a diamond sky. And in that quiet, surrounded by pressure and darkness, you would understand something essential about creation. Beauty is not fragile. It is forged in fire and crushed by weight. Neptune's diamonds exist because the planet endures what would destroy anything else. It survives the cold by burning inwardly, by letting its heart make light where the sun cannot. We are not so different. In our lives too, the greatest brightness often forms under pressure. Moments of strength born from difficulty, clarity born from struggle. Neptune's reign reminds us that even the heaviest burdens can create something precious, something that gleams in the dark. So, when you close your eyes tonight, imagine that faraway ocean, its diamond storms falling gently through the dark. Let their shimmer fill your dreams with quiet awe. In a universe that never sleeps, Neptune slumbers beneath its own glittering sky, turning slowly, peacefully, wrapped in beauty no eye has seen. And as it turns, the invisible currents of energy flow outward, bending fields and shaping light. Because beneath that storm of diamonds, another mystery waits. It is not made of matter, but of magnetism, and it dances to a rhythm all its own. Our next step takes us there, to the tilted, shimmering field that surrounds the planet like an unseen halo, where Neptune's strange magnetic heart beats out of sync with its spin. The diamond rain falls endlessly through Neptune's dark interior, glimmering like scattered stars beneath the clouds. The deeper it descends, the greater the pressure becomes, until every drop of light dissolves into shadow. And yet, even in that darkness, something extraordinary hums, a silent pulse, invisible but powerful. It is not the rhythm of wind or rain, but of a hidden force that wraps the planet in an unseen embrace. It bends light whispers to charged particles, and shapes the very breath of space. From deep within Neptune's mysterious heart rises another wonder, the strange and tilted song of its magnetic soul. Neptune is a planet that refuses to follow rules. From the moment it was discovered, it has kept its secrets close, always spinning just beyond the limits of understanding. Even its magnetic field, the unseen skeleton of its energy, is unlike any other in the solar system. Most planets align their magnetic hearts neatly with their poles, letting north and south mirror their axis of rotation. But Neptune, quiet, blue, and distant, tilts its magnetism at a bold 47 degrees, as if defying the symmetry the cosmos so often prefers. Imagine holding a spinning top. Its body whirls one way, but the invisible field surrounding it leans in another. That is Neptune, its invisible energy swaying out of rhythm with its spin, dancing to a tempo no other planet keeps. From afar, this misalignment makes the entire world seem alive, as if its pulse were moving in a strange orbit of its own. For years, scientists puzzled over why Neptune's magnetic field behaves so oddly. At first, they thought it might have something to do with the planet's tilt. After all, Uranus, its pale sibling, shares the same magnetic quirk, and Uranus lies nearly on its side, rolling through space like a giant marble. But Neptune is different. Its axis, though gently inclined, is not extreme. So the answer must lie elsewhere, deep beneath the layers of ice and gas, where pressure and heat weave matter into new and unfamiliar forms. It is now believed that Neptune's magnetism does not rise from a solid metallic core like Earth's, but from a mantle of fluid, an ocean of electrically conducting materials, perhaps a mix of water, ammonia, and methane, under crushing pressure. Within this vast sea, currents swirl, spinning up an electric field that becomes magnetic, pushing and twisting in chaotic directions. The field is not neatly anchored, but restless, sliding and shifting as the planet breathes. The result is a magnetic force that seems to drift across Neptune's surface like a wandering compass, unpredictable and strange. If you could stand above Neptune and somehow see its magnetic lines glowing in color, you would not find a simple north and south. You would see arcs looping and crossing, some near the equator, others bending back on themselves, forming wild patterns that seem almost alive. This strange geometry paints the sky with invisible waves guiding charged particles through the planet's thin atmosphere, tracing auroras that shimmer far from the poles. Auroras, those ghostly curtains of light we know on Earth as the northern and southern lights, also exist on Neptune, but they are faint, distant whispers of color that no human eye could ever see. Unlike Earth's, they are not anchored near the poles but float across the mid-latitudes, flickering briefly before fading into the ultraviolet dark. Their glow is weak, for the sun's energy is faint this far from home. But thanks to instruments aboard space telescopes, we can glimpse their ghostly presence, silent spectral ribbons that ripple like breath across the blue. In March of 2025, the James Webb Space Telescope captured a rare sight: Neptune's mid-latitude auroras shimmering softly in near-infrared light. The image was more than beauty, it was revelation. For the first time we saw the planet's magnetic heartbeat traced across its face. A silent ballet of energy linking Neptune to the sun, even from billions of kilometers away. And as Webb watched, it noticed something else: a sudden dramatic cooling in Neptune's upper atmosphere. Over the decades since Voyager's visit, the planet's temperatures had dropped by hundreds of degrees, almost halving in that short cosmic moment. Scientists do not yet know why. Perhaps the cooling is tied to changes in solar radiation, or perhaps it is something deeper: shifts within Neptune's own magnetic dance, a rhythm that alters how heat moves through its atmosphere. Whatever the cause, the image of that cooling world, its faint auroras flickering like dying embers, lingers as one of the solar system's quiet mysteries. Yet even in its mystery, there is beauty. Neptune reminds us that perfection is not alignment, but harmony within difference. Its magnetic field may tilt and wander, but it still holds the planet's invisible structure together, guiding winds, shaping storms, and painting lights upon the sky. What seems chaotic from afar is up close. An elegant balance, a reminder that even what is crooked can be whole. There's something deeply poetic in the thought that a planet's heart could be askew, yet still beat faithfully. The universe, after all, is not made of straight lines. It is filled with spirals, curves, orbits that wobble slightly off-center. In those imperfections lie movement, life, and music. Neptune's magnetism is like a melody played on a tilted instrument, unpredictable, haunting, but true. As we imagine that invisible song, we might recall that magnetism itself is simply motion, the dance of charged particles, the whisper of electrons spinning through the dark. Somewhere deep within Neptune's mantle, those particles continue their endless choreography, swirling and colliding, creating fields that stretch far into space. Perhaps in their movement they hum softly, a note too low for our ears, yet echoing through the cosmic sea. Every planet has its own sound, its own way of breathing. Jupiter roars with radio waves. Saturn hums in electric whispers. If we could translate Neptune's tilted field into music, perhaps it would sound like a slow, uneven rhythm, one that drifts, wavers, and then steadies again like a heart learning to find its beat. And that is the lesson Neptune offers from across the cold abyss. Not everything must align perfectly to be beautiful. Sometimes the tilt itself is what makes the song worth hearing. The same might be true for us, for the people, the hearts, the lives that feel slightly out of sync. Like Neptune, we carry invisible forces within us that bend and twist and still manage to hold us together. So as you drift deeper into this quiet journey, imagine that tilted world turning beneath its auroral veil. Let its asymmetry comfort you. The universe does not demand that you spin perfectly. It only asks that you keep turning, keep glowing even when your light is faint. And as Neptune continues its dance, its tilted field reaching into the dark, our story drifts onward toward the faint lights born of that very magnetism, toward the auroras that shimmer across its night sky like whispers from the edge of creation. The tilted magnetic heart of Neptune continues to hum quietly in the void, its rhythm faint but steady, its invisible field painting whispers of light across the frozen dark. Those auroras so soft that even the keenest eyes cannot see them shimmer for a moment before vanishing ghostly brushstrokes of blue upon blue. Yet for all their faintness, they tell a story, one of change, of silence, and of endurance. For in the stillness of space, even light must fight to exist. And when the James Webb Space Telescope turned its golden gaze upon Neptune in 2025, it found that the planet's glow had begun to fade, as if the universe itself were holding its breath. It began as most revelations do, in quiet observation. No explosions, no fanfare, just the calm patience of a telescope orbiting far from Earth, staring into eternity. The James Webb Space Telescope, with mirrors that unfold like the petals of a mechanical flower, was designed to see what human eyes never could: the faintest heat, the softest shimmer, the oldest light. And so in March of 2025, it looked once more toward the farthest of the planets, expecting to find Neptune much as Voyager 2 had left it, decades before, a cool, steady giant wrapped in storms of frozen air. But something was different. The light Webb captured did not match the patterns recorded in the years since Voyager's passing. The data whispered of a chill that had deepened, a quiet dimming that had swept through the planet's upper atmosphere. It was as though Neptune, once radiant in its tranquil blue, had drawn a veil over its face. The temperature had fallen by hundreds of degrees since the last detailed measurements, a staggering drop in the cosmic span of only a few decades. What could cause such a change? The sun's energy reaches Neptune in faint trickles, so distant that its warmth is like the memory of a candle. No sudden solar storm could explain this. Scientists on Earth wondered whether the planet's own internal fire had quieted, or if its magnetic field, tilted and restless, had rearranged the flow of heat within its skies. Perhaps the auroras themselves, faint though they were, held the answer. And there they were, delicate, ethereal arcs, stretching across Neptune's mid-latitudes like pale ribbons of silk. Unlike the brilliant auroras of Earth, which dance in emerald waves, Neptune's were subtle and subdued, visible only in the infrared wavelengths Webb could see. They drifted not near the poles, but around the middle of the planet, defying the patterns that shape our northern and southern lights. Each flicker was a song sung in near silence, a whisper of electrons carried along the planet's bent magnetic lines. It is hard to describe beauty that no eye can witness. These auroras were not meant for us, and yet somehow they speak to us. In their faint glow, we are reminded that even in the coldest, darkest places, something is always trying to shine. Webb's instruments captured their light like a heartbeat, gentle, rhythmic, alive. For a planet so far from the sun, light is a precious thing, and Neptune seemed determined to keep it, even as its warmth faded away. The images Webb sent home were breathtaking in their simplicity. Against the endless dark of space, Neptune appeared as a soft sphere of silver blue, its rings glinting faintly like threads of frost. Across its surface, the auroras shimmered in invisible hues radiating from regions where the magnetosphere twisted and folded upon itself. Scientists could only translate those wavelengths into color, imagining the unseen glow that rippled across the planet's sky. It was not just light they saw, it was motion energy, the restless pulse of a world alive beneath its calm. And yet, the mystery of the cooling remained. Why would Neptune's upper atmosphere, once steady and cold, become colder still? One theory suggested that the drop was part of a long seasonal cycle, one that takes centuries to complete. Perhaps as Neptune continues its vast orbit, sunlight now reaches it at a slightly different angle, changing the chemistry of its clouds and the way they trap heat. Another theory proposed that waves of energy from the planet's magnetic field were redistributing warmth deeper below the surface. Whatever the cause, Neptune seemed to be retreating into itself, dimming its glow, as though seeking rest after millennia of motion. But even in its dimming, the planet held beauty. The auroras continued flickering softly in defiance of the cold. Each one was a quiet protest against darkness, a reminder that where there is motion, there is life. To imagine those lights, you must picture them stretching across a sky of midnight sapphire, shifting slowly as magnetic currents pull them into new shapes. They would not blaze or flare as ours do. Instead, they would glide like breath over glass, glowing and fading, glowing and fading again. It is a humbling thought that such fragile light can endure in such a place. The sun's warmth is 1,000 times weaker there than on Earth. And yet Neptune finds its own way to shine. Its auroras are not powered by heat, but by connection, the flow of charged particles from the sun, carried across billions of miles to dance in its alien sky. Even at the edge of the solar system, Neptune listens to the same cosmic music that plays upon Earth. The rhythm is slower, the volume softer, but the melody remains. When Webb's images reached Earth, scientists marveled at their precision, but poets might have seen something else, a metaphor for endurance. For even as Neptune cooled, even as its fires dimmed, its auroras still glowed, small, quiet reminders that beauty persists even when strength wanes. The light was faint, yes, but it was still there, shimmering against impossible odds. Perhaps that is why we feel such tenderness for Neptune. It is a planet of paradoxes, distant yet alive, cold yet radiant, silent yet full of motion. Its storms rage unseen, its diamonds fall unheard, and its light flickers invisibly in wavelengths our eyes will never catch. But we know it's there. We sense it just as we sense warmth in a hand we can no longer hold, or the echo of a song long after it has ended. The auroras of 2025 were not an ending, but a reminder. They told us that change, even when it seems like fading, is simply transformation. The planet was not dying. It was dreaming, settling deeper into its long, slow rhythm of existence. And as it turned, it sent one last shimmer of light across the void, a message carried on invisible waves. Even when you cannot see me, I still shine. As the golden mirrors of Webb turned to other stars, Neptune continued its slow dance, its faint lights rippling through the dark. And somewhere beneath those skies, unseen and undisturbed, the rings that encircle it glimmered faintly, thin arcs of dust and ice, waiting to tell their own quiet story. That is where our journey now drifts, from the ghostly lights of Neptune's auroras to the silent, delicate circles that trace its eternal path. The auroras fade now, their soft ribbons dissolving into the silence of space. Neptune continues to turn slowly, its dim light pulsing faintly beneath the endless black. Yet not all that surrounds it is invisible. Beyond the blue haze and the shimmering skies lies something delicate, ancient, and easily forgotten. A series of faint rings circling the planet like threads of shadow. They are the planet's quiet jewelry, worn not to dazzle but to remember. Each grain of dust and shard of ice that drifts there carries a memory of creation, a trace of something once broken that still chooses to shine. At first glance, Neptune seems alone, a single blue world adrift in the cold. But if you look closely, if you let your eyes adjust to the dim light that falls from a faraway sun, you begin to see them, 5 faint circles, ghostly and thin, surrounding the planet in fragile harmony. They are not bright like Saturn's golden bands. They do not gleam or demand attention. They whisper. They float at the edge of sight as if afraid to disturb the quiet. These are Neptune's rings, and they are among the most mysterious structures in our solar system. When Voyager 2 approached in 1989, scientists were not sure they existed. From Earth, the rings were invisible, hidden by distance and darkness. But as the spacecraft drew near, a few faint arcs of light appeared in its images like scratches on a photograph. They were incomplete, uneven pieces of rings that seemed to fade in and out. The discovery puzzled astronomers. Why would Neptune's rings be broken, as though torn apart by time? What force could create such fragile beauty? The answer, like most things on Neptune, lies in mystery. These rings are made of dust and ice, but they are far darker than any others known. Their particles reflect only a tiny fraction of sunlight, making them nearly black against the surrounding space. It is thought that radiation from the sun has darkened their surfaces over millions of years, baking them into shadow. What was once bright has become somber, yet still endures an echo of light, refusing to vanish entirely. Each of the 5 rings bears a name not from myth, but from the men who revealed Neptune to us: Gale Leverrier, Lassell, Arago, and Adams. It feels fitting that the planet which was discovered through thought alone should carry the names of thinkers around its waist. The rings are tributes in motion, circling endlessly in the same sky their namesakes once imagined. The innermost ring, Gale, is wide and faint, a soft halo barely visible. Just beyond it lies Leverrier, narrow but bright, as if the planet itself still remembers the man who dreamed it into existence through numbers. Next comes Lassell, a broad ribbon of shadow stretching thousands of kilometers, yet so diffuse that even Voyager's sharp lenses could barely trace its outline. At its edge lies Arago, a narrow streak of dusk, and beyond them all spins Adams, the outermost and most beautiful of Neptune's rings. The Adams ring is thin, no more than 35 kilometers across, but it glows faintly in certain places where matter clumps into bright patches known as arcs. These arcs defy explanation. In theory, the material in a ring should spread evenly over time, pulled by the planet's gravity into a smooth circle. But on Neptune, the arcs remain clustered, like handfuls of starlight frozen in place. Some scientists believe tiny moons act as shepherds, guiding the dust and keeping it from dispersing. Others think unseen forces, perhaps resonances within Neptune's gravity field, hold them together. Whatever the cause, the arcs are proof that even in the most delicate systems, chaos and order can coexist. To imagine the rings is to imagine silence itself. If you could drift among them, you would hear nothing, not even the whisper of particles striking one another. Each grain of ice would move with exquisite precision, tracing its orbit in obedient stillness. The sunlight would fall dimly upon them, turning their darkness into soft silver, for only a moment before fading again. In that light, you might feel as though you were floating through the memory of a world, the remnants of moons that shattered long ago, their fragments circling forever in silent tribute. Scientists believe Neptune's rings were born of destruction. Perhaps a moon wandered too close and was torn apart by gravity. Its body stretched into dust that now circles endlessly. Perhaps collisions between ancient satellites ground them to powder, scattering their remains across space. Whatever their origin, the rings are a monument to loss transformed into beauty. A reminder that even what breaks apart can still find a kind of grace. Sometimes when we gaze at images of these fragile arcs, we forget how far they are from us. Every particle of dust there circles the planet 4 billion kilometers away. The sunlight that glints off them takes hours to reach our eyes. Yet we see them faint and steadfast, and we understand something profound: that distance does not erase connection. The faintest ring, the dimmest light, still carries a message through time and space, a message that says, "I am here. I endure." To the human heart there is comfort in such endurance. The rings of Neptune do not boast or shine. They persist. They circle their planet quietly, faithfully, without end or applause. In their shadowed arcs we find a lesson about our own fragility. Like them, we too are made of fleeting things: dust, memory, light. Yet together we form patterns that last longer than we imagine. If you could stand upon one of Neptune's small moons and look outward, you would see those rings stretched across the sky like faint brush strokes. The planet's blue glow would bathe them in a ghostly hue, turning the darkness into art. Around you the stars would remain unmoved, ancient witnesses to a dance that has lasted for billions of years. You might feel small, but you would also feel at peace, for even here at the edge of the sun's warmth, beauty persists. The rings remind us that silence does not mean emptiness. It can mean reverence, a kind of quiet, so deep that creation itself pauses to listen. Each particle, each glimmer of dust moves in a rhythm older than memory. And as we watch from our distant world, we find that rhythm within ourselves, the steady, unseen orbit of love, loss, and endurance that defines what it means to be alive. Neptune's rings will fade one day. The dust will drift, the arcs will scatter, and the silence will deepen. But for now, they remain circling their planet like soft echoes of time. And as our gaze drifts farther from their gentle glow, we begin to notice what lies beyond them. The moon that keeps its distance moving in reverse, defying gravity itself. Triton, the captured wanderer, the planet's haunting companion, and the next step in our journey. Beyond Neptune's delicate rings, those thin, whispering arcs of dust and memory, drifts a moon unlike any other. It moves in defiance of its planet's rotation, orbiting backward, as if resisting the very rhythm of its master. While the other moons dance obediently in the same direction as Neptune spins, this one glides against the current, silent and strange. It is a world both loyal and rebellious, a wanderer captured by gravity and held in an eternal embrace. Its name is Triton, and its story is one of exile, beauty, and quiet defiance. If Neptune is the ocean of the solar system, then Triton is its lone ship sailing eternally against the tide. It is the largest of Neptune's 14 moons, a pale frozen sphere wrapped in a blush of burnt orange and faint pinks. But its path is what makes it truly remarkable. While Neptune turns counterclockwise, Triton circles clockwise, a defiant motion that tells the truth of its origin. This is not a moon born of Neptune's making. It is a foreigner, a traveler that once roamed the Kuiper belt until Neptune's immense gravity pulled it from its journey and bound it forever to its side. Long ago, when the solar system was young, Triton likely traveled with a companion, another ice body, orbiting together through the outer darkness. As the pair approached Neptune, the giant's gravity tore them apart. One was flung away into the void. The other, Triton, was captured. It lost its freedom, but found a home. Over time, its orbit settled, tilted at a sharp 130 degrees from Neptune's equator, tracing an almost perfect circle around the planet. In that strange balance between loss and belonging, Triton became both prisoner and companion, a symbol of how even broken paths can lead to beauty. Viewed from afar, Triton glows softly, reflecting the dim light of the sun with the sheen of frozen nitrogen. Its surface is smooth in some places, scarred in others, a patchwork of plains, ridges, and valleys, carved by forces both ancient and alive. Unlike many of the solar system's moons, Triton bears few craters. That emptiness tells us something remarkable. Its face is young. The ground renews itself, erasing the marks of time as though the moon refuses to grow old. Beneath its frozen crust lies a restless heart. Voyager 2's flyby in 1989 revealed a world that breathes not with air or life as we know it, but through the slow pulse of ice and fire. The spacecraft's cameras captured plumes erupting from Triton's surface, jets of dark material shooting 8 kilometers high before falling back as a gentle snow. Scientists believe these geysers are born from a unique greenhouse effect beneath the moon's icy shell. Sunlight passes through a layer of transparent ice and warms the darker materials below, which then burst through the surface in sudden release. Even in this frozen land, the sun finds a way to stir motion. Imagine standing there on Triton's endless plains. The ground beneath you would be hard and silent, made of nitrogen ice, that creaks faintly underfoot. Above you, the sky would not be black, but a soft indigo painted by the faint reflection of Neptune's deep blue glow. The planet would fill half your horizon, enormous and radiant, its rings shimmering like ghostly halos. It would not rise or set. It would hang there unblinking, as if watching over you, and all around the faint mist of geysers would drift across the frozen plain, catching the pale sunlight like dust suspended in a dream. Triton's surface temperature is unimaginably cold, about -235 degrees Celsius, colder than almost any place in the solar system. And yet, beneath that brittle crust, warmth may still exist. Scientists believe that radioactive decay within its rocky core generates enough heat to maintain a subsurface ocean hidden beneath layers of ice. There, in the unseen depths, water might still move, flowing slowly through cracks and channels. It is not impossible that somewhere within that ocean chemistry stirs the same ancient alchemy that once began life on Earth. If such an ocean exists, it would make Triton a place of quiet promise, a frozen world with a liquid heart. Its interior would be dark, its waters still but not lifeless. Perhaps there are salts dissolved, their minerals drawn up from the rocky mantle, forming a silent sea that glows faintly from within. Perhaps, like the diamond rain of Neptune, that ocean carries its own hidden jewels, pockets of warmth, of potential, of hope. The surface itself tells us that Triton is alive in its own slow way. Vast plains stretch across its southern hemisphere, frozen lava fields smooth as glass, surrounded by raised rims and cliffs. These are the remains of ancient cryovolcanoes, places where liquid water once erupted from below and froze instantly in the frigid air. Each frozen flow is a record of the moon's deep breath, a sign that beneath its stillness lies motion. Among its most beautiful features is a vast circular depression known as Cantaloupe Terrain, named for its resemblance to the skin of the fruit. It covers much of Triton's surface, a web of ridges and troughs, shaped by the moon's shifting crust. No one knows exactly how it formed. Perhaps by internal tides, perhaps by freezing oceans expanding beneath. Whatever its cause, it gives Triton a face like no other moon, both alien and strangely familiar, as though it has aged gracefully in solitude. The thin atmosphere above Triton is another marvel. Though it is only 0.014 millibars at the surface, nearly a vacuum, it still manages to form clouds, wisps of nitrogen and methane drifting a few kilometers high. As the moon's weak sunlight warms its frozen surface, a little gas escapes, rising into the sky before freezing again and falling back as frost. In that endless cycle of evaporation and return, Triton breathes. The winds there are gentle but persistent, carrying dark particles from one region to another, painting the landscape in soft gradients of shadow and light. In this delicate dance between cold and warmth, between stillness and motion, Triton mirrors the contradictions of its parent planet. It moves backward, yet remains bound. It is frozen, yet alive. It orbits in silence, yet tells stories of motion and memory. It is the poet of Neptune's realm, the exile that found meaning in captivity. To gaze at Triton is to understand that beauty does not always lie in freedom, but sometimes in surrender. It reminds us that even when torn from our paths, we can still find harmony in new orbits. The captured wanderer, once lost among the distant stars, now circles its adoptive planet in grace, a soft, pale note in Neptune's deep blue symphony. And as Triton glides through its cold sky, other smaller moons follow far behind, a family of faint companions, each carrying its own quiet tale. Some were born from Neptune's rings, others from collisions long forgotten. Together, they form a fragile constellation around their distant master. And so our journey will continue to them, to the tiny worlds that trace Neptune's edges, silent witnesses to its ancient tides. Triton drifts on a captured soul, turning backward through Neptune's endless night. Its geysers rise and fall like breath, and beneath its frozen skin, an unseen ocean stirs softly in the dark. As the moon circles its giant companion, the faint glow of Neptune's light falls across its plains, touching the scars of ancient volcanoes that no longer burn. Yet even in stillness, the memory of fire remains. The same forces that once shaped Triton whisper beneath its crust, and with them lies the possibility of something extraordinary, the promise that even in a world of ice warmth, and perhaps even life, can endure. The first time Voyager 2 caught sight of Triton's surface, the images seemed almost impossible. There were no towering mountains, no deep craters, no landscapes littered with the debris of ancient collisions. Instead, the moon appeared smooth, graceful, its pale plains unscarred by time. It was as if the surface had been rewritten, its past erased, by something beneath something alive in the geological sense. For a place so distant, so frozen, Triton did not look dead. It looked renewed. As the spacecraft drew closer, it saw what no one had expected: plumes of dark material erupting from the surface, rising 8 kilometers high before bending and drifting in the thin air. These were not plumes of fire, nor of molten rock. They were geysers, fountains of nitrogen gas and dust bursting through the moon's icy crust like sighs from a sleeping giant. Each eruption lasted for hours, scattering particles across hundreds of kilometers before settling again as a delicate frost. Triton, it seemed, was not merely frozen solid. It was breathing. Scientists later understood that these geysers were born from sunlight, weak but persistent. The moon's surface is layered with transparent ice, and beneath that clear shell lies a darker layer rich with organic compounds known as tholins. When sunlight filters through the ice, it warms that dark layer ever so slightly, building pressure until the surface splits open and a plume escapes. The idea is poetic. Even the faintest warmth from the distant sun is enough to awaken motion in this silent world. Beneath Triton's serene exterior lies a hidden realm, an ocean trapped beneath kilometers of ice. The thought of that ocean has captured imaginations ever since Voyager's discovery. It may not be vast like Earth's seas, but it could stretch across much of the moon's interior, warmed by the slow decay of radioactive elements and the gravitational pull of Neptune itself. Tidal forces flex and twist Triton's core, generating heat that keeps parts of the ocean liquid. In that dark, pressurized world, conditions may exist that mirror those of Earth's early seas, where chemistry, patience, and chance could one day conspire to create life. Life, if it exists, there would not be as we know it. There would be no sunlight, no oxygen, no open sky. Instead, it would be a realm of shadows and mineral warmth, microscopic organisms clinging to vents in the ocean floor, feeding on chemical reactions rather than light. Perhaps it is nothing more than wishful thought, but there is comfort in imagining that even in the loneliest corner of the solar system, something still struggles to live. The same spark that burns in us might flicker there unseen under an alien sea. Above that hidden ocean, Triton's landscape tells its story in ice and stone. There are frozen plains that stretch farther than the eye can see, broken only by the outlines of ridges and troughs. In some regions, massive plateaus rise, their edges marked by cliffs that collapse into smooth basins, places where cryovolcanoes once erupted. Unlike the volcanoes on Earth, which pour rivers of fire, cryovolcanoes release water, ammonia, and methane in liquid form. The moment they reach the surface, they freeze, solid, forming smooth, glassy plains that shimmer under the faint sunlight. These frozen lava lakes, called planitia, are like the pages of a book that record the moon's most recent dreams of motion. Voyager's cameras captured one of these plains, a vast circular region surrounded by raised walls, where the surface appears unblemished and young. The scientists who studied it gave it no mythic name, no grand symbol. Yet what they found there was extraordinary. The surface was only a few million years old, an instant in geological time. This means that even in our age, Triton remains active. Somewhere beneath its crust, the planet still breathes heat into the cold. It is not a relic of the past, but a work still in progress, sculpting itself in slow motion. You can almost imagine the scene, a silent eruption far below, sending a bloom of water and gas upward, breaking through the ice in a moment of creation. The geyser arcs into the air, carrying with it particles from the hidden ocean. They glitter for a brief second before falling again as snow. Layer by layer, these frozen flurries blanket the surface, softening its scars. Time moves differently here, slower, gentler, like a breath held for centuries. Triton's thin atmosphere plays its part in this cycle of renewal. Though it is nearly a vacuum, it carries just enough gas to move the particles ejected by the geysers. Winds blow across the plains, guiding the falling dust in graceful arcs. In Voyager's photographs, you can see these trails clearly, dark streaks that stretch for hundreds of kilometers, all pointing in the same direction. They are the fingerprints of the invisible wind, tracing the unseen rhythm of Triton's air. Even in stillness there is motion. Even in silence there is song. The color of Triton's surface, that faint reddish tint, tells another story. It comes from the tholin's complex organic molecules formed when ultraviolet light strikes methane and nitrogen ice. These are the same materials found on Pluto and other bodies in the Kuiper belt, linking Triton to its birthplace beyond Neptune. On Earth, similar compounds have been found to form the building blocks of amino acids, the precursors of life. It's a humbling connection that the same chemistry that colors Triton's plains may also have once painted the dawn of life here in our own warm oceans. As the sunlight fades across its horizon, Triton glows faintly beneath Neptune's reflected light. The great planet looms in its sky, blue and vast, casting an endless twilight across its surface. Triton will never have night or day as we know them. It will always live under Neptune's presence, half shadowed, half illuminated. Yet in that eternal half-light lies a quiet peace. The moon has found its balance, caught forever between cold and warmth, freedom and captivity, silence and motion. Triton reminds us that even in isolation there can be grace. It is a world that endures by transforming a frozen shell that hides a restless soul. Its geysers breathe its crust, shifts its hidden ocean dreams in darkness. Perhaps no life will ever rise there, but the possibility alone is enough to make it sacred, a reminder that the universe, even at its farthest edges, is never truly still. And as Triton turns once more around its distant master, the camera of imagination drifts outward, leaving behind that haunting frozen beauty. Beyond Triton, there are other moons, smaller, quieter companions of Neptune, each a fragment of its story. Some are shepherds to its rings, others wander far into space. Our journey now follows them, tracing the faint arcs of their orbits through the planet's deep blue glow. As we drift away from Triton, the quiet world of geysers and frozen seas fades beneath Neptune's soft blue glow. The great moon, with its secret ocean and its trembling breath of nitrogen winds, continues its lonely orbit, forever circling its adoptive planet in silence. But Triton is not alone. Beyond it, scattered like pearls across the deep night, are other companions, smaller, fainter, and yet part of the same celestial family. They are Neptune's lesser moons, fragments of history and memory, each carrying the echo of creation. Some are scarred by time, others graceful and still, all bound by the invisible pull of the planet's gravity. Far beyond Triton's pale light, Neptune is surrounded by a host of smaller moons, 14 in all, each one a whisper of the planet's past. They do not blaze like stars, nor gleam like Triton's icy plains. Most are dark, irregular, and scarred, shaped by collisions and chance. And yet in their quiet orbits they tell stories of formation, of loss, and of resilience. Together, they form the family of Neptune, each child born under a different circumstance, each moving to the same unending rhythm. Closest to the planet are the inner moons, circling within the faint boundary of Neptune's rings. These small worlds, Naiad, Thalassa, Despina, Galatea, Larissa, and Proteus, are like dancers, moving in perfect precision. They orbit quickly, racing through Neptune's sky in just a few hours, keeping step with one another as though listening to a silent melody. Their paths are so carefully balanced that some scientists describe their motion as a kind of celestial choreography. Naiad, for instance, weaves up and down through space, looping above and below Thalassa's orbit, in a delicate pattern that repeats every few days. They never collide. They pass each other again and again, locked in a graceful rhythm older than human history. These moons are small, irregular, and shaped more by impact than by time. None are perfect spheres. Instead, they are jagged and rough, with surfaces pocked by craters and scars. They are remnants of something greater, perhaps fragments of larger moons that once orbited Neptune and were torn apart by gravity. Each carries within it the memory of that violence. Yet even in their brokenness, they remain beautiful, orbiting faithfully, reflecting faint light back to the planet they serve. Proteus, the largest of the inner moons, is perhaps the most remarkable. At 400 kilometers across, it is shaped more like a piece of rock than a world. Its surface is dark and rugged, marked by craters that look like the fingerprints of time. And yet, despite its irregular form, it holds its orbit steadily, a sentinel guarding Neptune's inner realm. When Voyager 2 first captured Proteus's image, scientists were surprised by its size, and by the fact that it had not collapsed into a perfect sphere. It seemed to defy the natural order, a world large enough to yield to gravity's pull, but too stubborn to surrender. Proteus is the survivor, the scarred elder among Neptune's children, a relic of what once was. Orbiting near Proteus is Galatea, a moon with a special purpose. It acts as a shepherd guiding the delicate arcs of Neptune's faint rings. Its gravity keeps the particles in line, preventing them from spreading and vanishing into space. Without Galatea, the rings might have long since dissolved, scattered like dust. This tiny moon, only 60 kilometers wide, performs an eternal task, maintaining balance in the system, unseen, yet essential. There's poetry in that, how even the smallest can preserve the harmony of the vast. Beyond the inner moons lies a newer discovery. Hippocamp, a fragile fragment no more than 35 kilometers across. Found in 2013, through the eyes of the Hubble Space Telescope, Hippocamp is thought to be a piece of Proteus torn away in a collision eons ago. It now circles quietly near its parent, a child born from damage, small but determined. Its orbit tells a tale of survival, of destruction, that gave birth to something new. In the dark, Hippocamp continues to move, a reminder that even loss can create. Then come the outer moons, distant wanderers, whose paths stretch far into the shadows. Some move in the same direction as Neptune's rotation. Others, like Triton, orbit backward, captured from the cold reaches of the Kuiper Belt. Among them are Nereid, Halimede, Psamathe, and Naso, names that sound like whispers of the sea. Their orbits are long, slow, and often chaotic. Nereid, for instance, travels in an ellipse so wide that its distance from Neptune changes by a factor of 7 during its journey. Sometimes it draws close, bathed in the planet's blue glow. At other times it drifts into the deep dark, almost free, but never quite escaping. It is a moon of longing, forever caught between belonging and exile. Naso and Psamathe, the most distant of Neptune's moons, are among the farthest satellites of any planet in the solar system. Each takes 25 years to complete a single orbit around Neptune. To them, the planet appears as a bright blue star, tiny and luminous against the backdrop of endless night. Their paths are inclined and elongated, suggesting that they too were once captured objects drawn in by Neptune's gravity long ago. These distant moons are the wanderers who never returned home, the final echoes of the planet's reach. Each moon, whether near or far, contributes to Neptune's balance. Together, they form a cosmic family. Unlike any other, a blend of fragments, wanderers, and faithful companions. Their diversity tells us something profound about the planet they orbit. That Neptune's story is not one of isolation, but of gathering. It pulls in what passes by, holds on to what survives, and shapes harmony out of chaos. When you imagine standing on one of those inner moons, perhaps on the dark rock of Proteus, or the dusted plain of Galatea, the sky above you would be a sight of endless wonder. Neptune would fill the horizon, vast and luminous, casting its blue light across the barren ground. Beyond it, Triton would rise and fall, its pale surface glinting faintly. The rings would stretch like ghostly ribbons through the darkness, and far beyond them, tiny sparks. The other moons would shimmer in their eternal paths. The silence would be total, the beauty absolute. There is something deeply human in these moons, in their persistence and their fragility. They endure despite their scars. They move together yet separately, each keeping to its own orbit, never colliding, always bound by the same unseen force. They remind us that even in the loneliest places community can exist, quiet, distant, but unbreakable. As Neptune's moons circle on, they write a story of balance and endurance, of small worlds kept in motion by faith in something larger. And while the planet's pull holds them close, its gravity also reaches far beyond, shaping not only the orbits of its moons, but also the movements of the distant objects that share its cosmic domain. Beyond even Neso's faint orbit lies the realm of the trans-Neptunian objects' bodies, caught in Neptune's long shadow. And among them drifts one in particular, a silent wanderer known as 2020 VN40, whose strange rhythm tells us that Neptune's influence extends farther than any of its moons, into the very fabric of the outer solar system itself. The faint moons of Neptune continue their silent dance, orbiting their great blue master with devotion and grace. Some circle closely, guiding the fragile rings, while others drift far away, barely bound by Neptune's pull. Yet even beyond these furthest companions, the planet's influence reaches outward, shaping the rhythm of distant worlds we cannot see. In the dark frontier past Neso and Samathe, Neptune's gravity still sings a quiet note, resonating through the fabric of the solar system. It is there, among the drifting fragments of the Kuiper Belt, that a strange and faithful wanderer moves in time with the planet's heartbeat. Its name is 2020 VN40, and it is the echo of Neptune's reach into eternity. There are places in the solar system where light barely exists. The sun, so fierce and golden on Earth, becomes no brighter than a distant star, its warmth fading into emptiness. It is out here among the drifting debris of ancient creation that Neptune's gravity still holds sway. Invisible lines of force stretch across billions of kilometers, guiding the orbits of icy fragments, shaping the paths of comets and frozen rocks that have never seen sunlight up close. Among them moves a single curious traveler, an object whose dance is bound in perfect rhythm with Neptune's own. Discovered only a few years ago, this small body, known to astronomers as 2020 VN40, travels around the Sun once for every 10 orbits that Neptune completes. Their motions are locked together, an elegant ratio of 10:1 that forms a pattern called orbital resonance. It is as though Neptune plays a melody through gravity itself, and 2020 VN40 moves in step, swaying to a rhythm that has lasted for millions of years. In a universe where chaos often reigns, such harmony feels miraculous. Imagine Neptune as a conductor, its unseen baton guiding countless invisible dancers across the stage of the solar system. Most follow their own unpredictable steps, wandering too near or too far, pulled by other forces. But a few, like 2020 VN40, hear the music and respond. They adjust their motion ever so slightly, falling into time, never colliding, never drifting away. The balance between Neptune's pull and the Sun's dominance keeps them poised in an eternal dance, delicate and precise. 2020. VN40 is not a moon. It does not belong to Neptune in the way Triton does. Instead, it belongs to both Neptune and the Sun, held between their wills. It is what astronomers call a resonant object, a wanderer that obeys a rhythm rather than a leash. Its orbit stretches far beyond Neptune's tilted, like the lean of a question in the dark. Every 1,650 Earth years, it completes one long journey around the Sun, tracing a path both solitary and connected. It is too small to shine, too distant to see with the naked eye, yet it carries in its motion the echo of Neptune's gravity, a soft reminder that even in the vastness of space, relationships endure. How remarkable to think that something so small can move in harmony with something so grand. The universe often appears cold and indifferent, but resonance reveals a secret tenderness, a kind of cosmic companionship. It shows that the pull of one world can ripple outward to touch another, even across unimaginable distance. Just as tides on Earth are stirred by the moon's gravity, so too is this faraway traveler stirred by Neptune's invisible hand. Scientists study these relationships not just for beauty, but for truth. By understanding the way 2020 VN40 moves, they learn more about the architecture of the solar system, the invisible framework of gravity that connects every world to every other. Each resonant object acts as a messenger, whispering clues about Neptune's past, its migrations, and the boundaries of its dominion. Some even believe that such resonances hint at the presence of unseen planets still farther out, hidden giants whose gravity tugs gently on the fabric of space, waiting to be found. But beyond the mathematics, there is poetry in this cosmic connection. To imagine 2020 VN40 is to imagine solitude that is not lonely, a tiny world gliding through darkness, forever aware of Neptune's distant presence. It never sees the planet directly, yet its path bends with every turn of Neptune's orbit, as if bowing in quiet acknowledgement. They will never meet, never touch, and yet they are bound together by something profound and invisible. In that perhaps lies one of the oldest truths of the universe, that closeness does not always require contact, and harmony does not always demand proximity. Picture it now, a small icy body drifting through the black, illuminated only by the faint glint of a distant sun. For every 10 times Neptune circles that dim star, this wanderer completes one long revolution, keeping perfect time as though listening to an ancient rhythm that no one else can hear. The stars around it remain fixed and silent, but the traveler moves steadily, faithfully in its endless orbit. It does not hurry. It does not rest. It simply follows the pattern written for it, a pattern older than humanity, older even than Neptune itself. And while we cannot see it with our eyes, its motion affects the story of everything nearby. Its orbit shapes the distribution of other fragments. Its rhythm influences the slow migration of dust and ice through the outer system. Even a tiny mass, when placed in resonance, can move worlds. It is a reminder that in nature, influence is not always measured by size or strength, but by consistency, by the quiet persistence of motion that endures over time. The relationship between Neptune and 2020 VN40 is one of balance. If the object drifts too close, Neptune's gravity tugs it back. If it wanders too far, the sun reclaims it. This push and pull creates a zone of stability that can last for eons. The two bodies move together in a dance that never ends, like partners separated by distance, yet connected by rhythm. It is a ballet of physics and poetry, of silence and grace. For all its beauty, though, this harmony also carries a melancholy truth. 2020. VN40 will never see Neptune up close. Its path keeps it forever at a distance, watching, responding, but never arriving. Perhaps that is what gives the relationship its quiet power, the fact that it endures without possession. There is something deeply human in that idea, that love, faith, and influence can exist without proximity, that we can move one another even from worlds apart. As you imagine this small wanderer gliding through the cold, think of the rhythm it follows. Every 1,000 years its course brings it a little closer to Neptune, and every time it drifts away again, it carries with it a trace of that invisible connection. Across the billions of kilometers of space it remains in sync, obedient to a harmony written long before life began. And so Neptune's song continues. Its gravity extends far beyond its clouds, and rings out past Triton, and the frozen moons, past the edge of sunlight itself. It reaches into the deep, where even light grows faint, where wanderers like 2020 VN40 move in patient obedience to its call. It is the rhythm of the outer dark, the heartbeat of a world that keeps time for the solar system's edge. As Neptune's influence fades into infinity, the story it tells becomes something larger than a single planet. It becomes the story of connection itself, of how, even in the emptiness between stars, one motion can inspire another. And as our journey through Neptune's realm nears its end, we turn now to reflection, to the world itself, spinning at the threshold of sunlight and shadow. The last great sentinel before the long night of interstellar space. Far beyond Neptune's distant orbit, the light of the sun fades into a silvery whisper. The lonely traveler 2020 and 40 continues its slow and faithful dance, circling in rhythm with the planet's unseen gravity. Together, they form the final notes of the solar system's melody, a delicate harmony of motion, silence, and time. Yet even as Neptune's influence stretches into darkness, the planet itself remains steady, turning quietly at the edge of all things. It is the last sentinel of sunlight, the keeper of the frontier, and the guardian of mystery. Our long journey through its realm now returns to the heart of this distant world, to reflect upon its story, the story of Neptune, the final planet. In the grand design of the cosmos, Neptune stands as a threshold, the last world before the endless dark. Beyond its orbit, the sun becomes a pale star, and the planets give way to frozen relics drifting endlessly in silence. Yet Neptune remains a glowing sapphire suspended between light and shadow, both an ending and a beginning. It is here that our solar system exhales, and the warmth of creation fades into the chill of infinity. From the first moment of its discovery, Neptune has been a planet of paradox. It was found not by the eye but by the mind, predicted through mathematics before any telescope ever saw it. Leverrier's equations became a compass pointing toward the unseen, and when the telescope confirmed his vision, it was as if the universe had nodded in agreement. Neptune was proof that imagination and logic could touch the heavens, that even from Earth we could find truth written in the stars. And when Voyager 2 finally arrived more than a century later, that truth unfolded in shades of blue and silver. The photographs it sent back were unlike anything humanity had ever seen. Neptune was not the frozen, lifeless sphere many had imagined, but a world alive with storms, with wind, with light. Its great dark spot churned like a cosmic eye watching silently over the deep. Its clouds swept across the surface in bands of crystal methane, sculpted by winds faster than sound. It was a world that defied distance, a reminder that even at the outermost edge, beauty thrives. The years since Voyager's visit have only deepened the mystery. Telescopes like Hubble and James Webb have watched Neptune with quiet reverence, capturing faint changes that unfold over decades. Its storms form and vanish, its colors shift, its atmosphere breathes. We have seen its springtime dawn slow and tender, lasting 40 Earth years. We have watched it grow brighter and dimmer as sunlight struggles to reach its far horizon. Time moves differently there. A season lasts a lifetime, a year lasts an age, and yet the planet endures unchanging in its calm, unfazed by the centuries that pass. To gaze upon Neptune, even through images and data, is to feel humility. Here is a planet 4.5 billion kilometers away, still holding secrets after all our searching. Beneath its clouds lies a mantle of ice and liquid methane, where diamonds may fall like rain, and rivers of carbon flow through darkness. Deeper still, an unseen core radiates heat into the void, warming the planet from within. It is as though Neptune carries its own fire, a quiet defiance against the cold. Around it, a family of moons and rings keep vigil. Triton circles backward, a captured wanderer, whose icy heart may yet hold an ocean. Smaller moons dance in patterns too precise for coincidence, weaving through Neptune's rings like careful guardians. Those rings, thin as mist, shimmer faintly in the dim light, each particle tracing the memory of a world that once was. Together they move in harmony as though Neptune's gravity were a kind of music only they can hear. Beyond them, the resonance of 2020 WIN44 drifts through space, keeping time with the planet's orbit. It is the faint echo of Neptune's pull, a reminder that even at the edge of darkness, order persists. Every revolution of that small, unseen object is a whisper of connection, proof that gravity's thread stretches far beyond what eyes can see. Neptune does not end where its atmosphere fades. It continues through the invisible fabric of space, binding distant wanderers into its rhythm. There is a strange comfort in that thought. Neptune, so far away, still reaches out. It reminds us that separation does not mean absence, that even the most distant things remain part of a shared story. The same sunlight that kisses your face this morning will 4 hours later touch Neptune's clouds, dim but persistent. In its faint warmth lies a quiet message. Everything that exists is connected, no matter the distance. When we look at Neptune, we see more than a planet. We see reflection. We see endurance against isolation, grace within uncertainty, light blooming in the farthest dark. Neptune teaches us that beauty does not depend on being seen. It simply is. It turns year after year under a sun that barely shines, yet its color remains rich, its storms unending, its music still playing through the silence of space. Perhaps that is why the heart responds so deeply to it. In Neptune's calm defiance, we recognize something of ourselves, the human will to endure, to find meaning, even when light grows faint. Like the planet, we carry our warmth within us. We dream across distances, we hope against time, and we keep turning toward the sun even when it becomes only a glimmer. One day another spacecraft may return to Neptune. It may plunge through its atmosphere, tracing the currents of its winds, or drift above its clouds, watching lightning flash across its night side. Perhaps it will send us sounds or the faint vibration of storms too distant to hear. But until that day, Neptune remains the world of imagination, a story told through equations, images, and dreams. And maybe that is enough, for in every mystery there is wonder, and in every unanswered question there is hope. Neptune's story is not just about a distant planet. It is about our endless desire to reach beyond ourselves. It is a reminder that exploration is not about distance, but about discovery, about finding beauty where we thought there was none, and hearing music in what seemed like silence. So let us leave Neptune as we found it, quiet, steady, and sublime. Let its soft blue light linger in the mind like the memory of a distant song. It turns still on the edge of night, surrounded by the ghosts of moons and the shimmer of unseen diamonds, holding vigil for all that lies beyond. The final planet, the keeper of the outer sea, the dreamer of the dark. And as we drift away, one truth remains, that even at the coldest edge of creation, the universe is never without wonder and never without light.